and welcome to this week's YouTube video. This week is part 1 of a 2-part video. I'm going to show you how I painted this self-portrait plus Finnfin, my dog. As I don't have any portrait paintings on my channel, I thought I would give you the full version of both videos. So this week's video will be the underpainting. I will be using a palette of raw umber plus zinc titanium white plus mineral spirits to thin my paint. The overpainting, where I add the colour, will be in a separate video. So before I start, I want to have a word about this photo. In order to make it easier for myself, I'm going to turn it into black and white. I have done this in Photoshop, but very often within your Photos phone app, you will have an ability to do this. I know it is possible in iPhotos, but I'm not sure about Android phones. Before I start painting, it is very important to have a plan. The area of interest in this painting is this area here. So in order to focus the viewer's attention here, I need to keep this area looser and less defined than this area here. So I think now I'll get on with the painting, and I'll speak a little more throughout the video, but there will be times when I fall silent, as it is quite hard to talk non-stop for 1 hour. So you don't need to check your volume, I'm just not speaking. But hopefully though, it will be obvious what I'm doing. The painting time will be around about an hour, so you might need to watch this video in segments, or perhaps all together, whichever is best for you. So let me tell you what I'm doing then. I'm using the mineral spirits to thin down my paint. I want this underpainting to be thin because I want to try and keep as much freshness as I can for the overpainting. And the thing about underpaintings is they can mute the colours when you paint over them. But that said, it is actually a very good method to use when doing a portrait painting, and you'll find raw umber is a great all-round colour to use, as it's quite close to flesh tones anyway. I am doing quite a comprehensive underpainting. Usually I probably wouldn't try to get it as precise as this, but you can't really get away with mistakes when painting people because it's just so obvious. I mean, we look at people every day. The eye is very familiar with human features, so it is much easier to spot when you are off. So I am taking my time over this one, trying to get it right. There are multiple methods you can use to try and get your image onto your canvas to make sure it is accurate. I talk about this in a couple of ways in one of my videos. The title of the video is 2 Hacks to Help You Draw and Paint More Accurately from Photos. So you can also use carbon paper as well to trace the image if you want to. I personally have no issue with using these various methods to get your image onto your canvas quickly. I do a lot of commissions, and so I find it speeds up my process. However, if your goal is to improve your drawing skills, taking the time to draw the image onto your canvas freehand will always be a better option for you. So it really just depends upon what your aim is as to whether you should trace it on or draw it on freehand. I should say also that I covered the canvas board in a wash of mineral spirits, so that's Gamsol, and raw sienna before I started to give it that warm glow. So it was very much a watery consistency, very, very, very thin. So again, this is completely optional and you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I am actually dyslexic, and if I were to choose a coloured overlay to go over text, it would be orange. So I think this is just something that I do to reduce the white glare that my eye doesn't like. It's not essential to the process. In fact, you may favour a different colour altogether. So I would advise to just play about with it and see what works for you. You'll notice that I am changing between brushes. I'm using small round brushes for the detail and a flatter brush of varying sizes for the other areas. I like the flat brushes. They are expressive, they allow you to build form well with a sort of straight line effect. You'll notice I tend to lay the paint in a series of lines that I'm sort of laying in a way that mirror the contouring of the image that I'm trying to paint. So I always try to paint my objects in a way that suggests the structure of that object. And I find that flat brushes really help exaggerate this. When I move on to painting the lighter areas, I really water down my raw umber with the Gamsol, and any white paint I add is heavily watered down too. Also, do not be afraid to pull the paint off with just the mineral spirits on your brush. You do not need to always be applying paint. You can be taking it off too, especially for an underpainting, because it doesn't really matter. Remember, this is just a guide to show you where all your objects are and to help you get your drawing correct before you start adding the colour. Also, this method helps split up the painting process to make it a little easier for you. This way you are dealing with both your drawing and your values. The eye struggles to see colour and value at the same time, so this method can make it easier later on. I am just working through this underpainting systematically. Everybody has a different method of working. I've seen many artists completely cover their canvas all in one go and then start to define areas. Some like to wipe areas out. There are many ways to achieve the same result, and I don't think any of them are more correct than the other. It's just what works for you and what you feel comfortable with. So I would suggest experimenting with as many different methods as you can to see what one works for you best. The problem with reference photos, though, is that you can easily be drawn into putting in too much detail. So, for example, here there is a lot of detail in Finnfin's legs or across his stomach that I could easily be drawn into putting in. But I'm just aiming for the big block values at this stage. Now I am starting to wipe the areas out. I find this method quickest and easiest way to give me the correct values. I personally prefer to do this rather than adding lots of white paint. White paint will need to be added thickly and would take ages to dry, and I want to work on this tomorrow, so I prefer to wipe the areas out to achieve my light effect. I also find that it keeps my paint thin, which will help give me a fresher overpainting, which again is what I want. I can suggest the fur by wiping it out. Make sure you keep squinting as well at your photo, and this will reveal to you where the areas of obvious value are. So as I said earlier, it is easy with a painting like this to get caught up in the detail and end up painting each strand of hair as you see it in the reference photo. But remember, all this will give us is a painting of detail. It will not accurately represent the essence of what I am looking at. So before you begin painting, ask yourself, what is it that I want to achieve with this painting? What is it that makes me want to paint this? If you've followed my YouTube channel and also my Instagram account, you'll notice that I never or very rarely do I paint portraits. It's just not my thing. I am not really that inspired when faced with figurative paintings. You may have also noticed from my social media channels that I keep myself off them too. So for me to actually be motivated to paint a portrait, and that portrait to include myself, that really is quite something else and very unusual for me. But I thought the emotional connection between both subjects in this image was so strong. That is all I see when I look at the photo, and that is what I am attempting to paint and what motivated me to have a go at this one. So if you find yourself getting bogged down in the detail, just keep reminding yourself of the reason you are painting the subject matter, and hopefully that will keep you on track. You can see I am just continually putting on the paint and then wiping it off. I am just building it up until I think I have enough information for then moving on to the overpainting. You don't want it to be too perfect, otherwise you'll struggle to paint over it in an expressive way. So I think that gives me everything I need for my overpainting. So I hope you would join me for the second part of this video. Please like and subscribe if you can, and also check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and details of online classes I run. Thank you for watching, and see you for the next one.